Diplomats typically wage war with protocols, agreements, and polite words, but sometimes a diplomat's greatest weapon comes from the battlefield of her past. In Zindara, the ancient, dusty, and politically volatile capital of the Middle East, the American embassy stood tall like a fortress of hope, with its sturdy walls and fluttering flag. Inside, in the bustling corridors, a young, little-known figure quietly performed her duties, Military Attaché Sloane, Diplomat Kelly. In her early 30s, she possessed a slender yet graceful and athletic physique, a sharp-featured face, and intelligent brown eyes that meticulously scanned every detail around her. Her attire was always impeccable, her voice always measured. However, beneath this exterior lay a past that most people could never have guessed. Before embarking on her diplomatic career, Sloane had served in one of the Army's most elite Special Forces units, known by the call sign Ghost. She was a decorated soldier who had participated in countless dangerous operations. She was a master of close-quarters combat techniques, unparalleled in tracking, concealment, and reading enemy psychology. However, after sustaining a critical injury, she had been assigned to diplomatic service by the military, forced into a life far removed from combat. For her, this was not a retirement, but an exile, where her skills were left to rust. Tables had confined her, keeping her away from mountains and operations. The U.S. Embassy, caught in the midst of this chaos, became the target of a sudden and coordinated attack. As every corner of the building rapidly fell under enemy control, a small group of diplomatic personnel found themselves trapped in a security room with no escape. As everyone succumbed to despair, young and little-known military attaché Sloane Diplomat Kelly used her Special Forces training and sharp language skills from her past to challenge an entire army single-handedly. They underestimated the diplomat. So, how did she transform a diplomatic crisis into heroism and rescue those who were trapped? That day, the political turmoil in Zindara had reached its boiling point. Protests intensified outside the embassy building, and tension was palpable in the streets. Sloane was in her office, dealing with routine paperwork, reviewing current reports. The noise outside had become a part of her daily life. However, everything changed abruptly when this noise transformed into gunfire. The embassy had become the target of an organized and coordinated attack. A radical terrorist organization known as Hafiz Brothers had launched a sudden assault on the building, attacking from a weak point. Explosions shook the embassy to its foundations, and alarm sirens shrieked. Although the security forces immediately retaliated, they began to crumble rapidly under the sheer number of enemies and the speed of the assault. Corridors were filled with smoke and the sounds of conflict. Sloane dashed out of her office. Gunfire echoed through the corridors, and personnel frantically sought cover, trying to escape. The embassy's main building was rapidly falling under enemy control. Sloane instinctively ran towards the nearest security room, the panic room. Here, a small group of diplomatic personnel, civilian staff, and the embassy's chief consul, John Miller, found themselves trapped. The room was locked from the outside, surrounded by a thick steel door. Reinforcements seemed hours, even days away, given the chaos in the city. The sounds of explosions, gunfire, and panicked screams from outside extinguished the hope of those trapped within. The atmosphere inside the panic room was heavy. Despair was etched on everyone's face. Telephones were not working, and communication with the outside was impossible. One diplomat shouted, "We're all going to die here. They will forget us," his voice filled with hysteria. Consul Miller tried to take control of the situation, but the despair and fear on his face were evident. Sloane observed the situation inside. She knew that no one could bring help from the outside. The city's chaos made it impossible for reinforcements to reach the embassy. Their only hope was a solution from within, and that solution lay in Sloane's past, which she had thought was left to rust. Her diplomatic protocols and training as a military attaché did not grant her authority to negotiate with an armed terrorist organization in this situation. This was completely against diplomatic ethics and military protocol, but her Special Forces training had taught her that there was no such thing as impossible, that a solution could be found in every scenario. For her, this was not just a duty, it was a matter of conscience. She was the last hope for those innocent people trapped within. Without notifying anyone, without seeking anyone's approval, Sloane quickly examined the circuit diagram on the panic room's communication panel. Using her old military electronics knowledge, she began to manipulate the panel. Her fingers danced over the wires with surgical precision. Within minutes, she managed to tune the radio frequencies to one the enemy was using. This would give her a chance to communicate directly with the enemy, opening an unexpected communication channel. Her goal was not just to buy time, it was to surprise them, to demoralize them, and to create chaos among their ranks. At a moment when everyone expected to die, Sloane was about to single-handedly defy an army with only her voice and intellect as her weapons. When Sloane Kelly successfully infiltrated the enemy's frequency from the panic room's communication panel, the diplomatic personnel inside held their breath. Consul Miller whispered, "Attaché Kelly, what are you doing? This is extremely dangerous and unauthorized. What if they find you?" His voice filled with panic and concern. But Sloane's gaze was fixed solely on the panel in front of her and the microphone in her hand. She put on her headset and brought the microphone close to her mouth. The sounds of conflict outside were merely the rhythm of a symphony to her. They never distracted her. She began to speak in flawless Arabic, calmly and confidently. "This is the U.S. Embassy panic room. We have civilians and diplomatic personnel inside. We wish to negotiate with you. What do you want?" The initial response from the enemy was a burst of violent laughter and expletives echoing from the radio. "You pathetic rats, we have nothing to talk about with you. Drop your weapons and come out, or we will burn you all alive," a militant growled, his voice filled with hatred. Sloane began to employ the psychological manipulation and interrogation techniques she had learned in Special Forces training. "You are not an army, you are a gang," she said, her voice challenging, each word a blow to the enemy's pride. "You may take the embassy, but you will never reach the highly classified information inside. And if you burn this building, you will burn not only your own reputation, but also your standing with all your global supporters. International backlash will destroy you, and you will never achieve your goal." These words created a brief but noticeable silence in the enemy ranks. The militant commander responded, his tone indicating surprise and a slight retreat, laced with hesitation. "What nonsense are you spouting? Are you threatening us, woman? How dare you be so brazen?" Sloane immediately sensed this hesitation and the enemy's hunger for information. "I am not threatening, I am stating facts," she said. "Inside there is highly classified information that you will never reach. You need us to access that information, and we can give you that information if you negotiate and ensure our safe evacuation." The diplomats in the panic room looked at Sloane in astonishment, some with fear, some with admiration for this incredible courage and intellect. Consul Miller whispered, "What information? Attaché Kelly, what are you talking about? What kind of information?" Sloane winked at him. It was merely a bluff. But it was her only chance to stall the enemy, to buy time, and to create a window of opportunity for reinforcements to arrive. Every second increased their chances of survival. Negotiations began. Sloane, with her flawless command of Arabic and her knowledge of Middle Eastern culture, religion, and concepts of honor, surprised the enemy commander. She maintained a respectful but never submissive demeanor. She referenced their religious tenets, approaching them through concepts of honor and justice. Every word she spoke hit its target like a bullet, slowly breaking the enemy's resistance. The conflict outside had slowed, replaced by a tense, expectant standoff. During the negotiations, Sloane attempted to ascertain the enemy's positions, numbers, armament, and the motivations of their leaders within the embassy. She was using the interrogation and intelligence-gathering techniques she had learned in her past ghost operations, now masterfully employed in the midst of a diplomatic negotiation. From every answer, she tried to extract the enemy's weaknesses, their limits of tolerance, and their potential greed. To buy time, she continuously introduced new, complex demands, deliberately slowing everything down. However, the enemy commander had begun to grow suspicious. "Who are you, woman? Why are you so calm and so knowledgeable? How dare you be so audacious on our soil?" he demanded, his voice turning threatening. Sloane maintained her composure. "I am the key to the message Washington will send you, and if you harm me, you lose that key. Then you will never learn how angry the U.S. will be with you," she replied. The negotiations dragged on for hours, the heat and smoke inside the building intensifying. Outside, a fierce sandstorm had begun to rise around the embassy. This would make the arrival of reinforcements even more difficult, but it also presented Sloane with a new opportunity, the chance to manipulate the chaos. As the sandstorm began to swallow the skies of Zindara, visibility outside the embassy dropped to near zero. The sounds of conflict were muffled by the howling of the storm. For the enemy, this was a distinct disadvantage. Their coordination faltered, and panic began to set in when visibility decreased. But for Sloane, this was an opportunity to move within chaos, a skill she had learned and mastered in her Special Forces training. She slowly brought the negotiations to an end, pushing the enemy's suspicions to their peak. "We cannot reach an agreement," she stated, "because you are not ready to receive the information we have for you, and frankly that information is too big for you to handle." The enemy commander exploded in a fit of rage. "Then your end has come, woman. We will burn the embassy to the ground, and none of you will get out alive," he bellowed. As the conflict was about to intensify again, Sloane made a final decisive move. She hacked into the panic room's ventilation system. A thick, suffocating fog began to fill the room, instantly reducing visibility to zero. "What's happening? We're suffocating," the diplomats cried out. Sloane calmly replied, "This is our escape plan. Using this smoke screen and the raging sandstorm outside, she would disorient the enemy, making them feel as if an invisible hand was attacking them, effectively a ghost attack." There was a secret evacuation hatch on the embassy roof. This hatch was a secret she had learned years ago while studying the embassy's architectural plans with her father. Sloane used the chaos created by the fog inside and the sandstorm outside to safely move the personnel to the roof. The sounds of conflict with the enemy escalated outside, while the panic of the personnel could also be heard. She tried to calm everyone, guiding each step. Just then, the sound of approaching helicopters pierced through the sandstorm. Reinforcements had arrived. Marine Corps Special Operations teams were descending onto the roof via Black Hawk helicopters, in an environment where visibility was almost impossible. The enemy was stunned. They had believed no aircraft could fly in this storm. But Sloane's composure, her time-buying tactics, and her genius in manipulating the enemy had opened this critical window for the reinforcements. On the roof, the Marines quickly took control. After a brief but intense firefight, enemy resistance crumbled. Sloane began loading personnel onto the helicopters, counting each one individually. Fighting still raged inside and outside the embassy. Sloane, after ensuring that the last of the personnel were safely aboard the helicopters, boarded herself. Her face was covered in soot and dust, but her eyes held the calm sparkle of triumph. The embassy building had been secured. All diplomatic personnel had been safely evacuated. Reinforcements began clearing out the remaining enemies. Sloane's single-handed resistance had transformed one of Zindara's biggest diplomatic crises into an epic rescue story. Her intellect, courage, and diplomatic acumen had once again proven to be the greatest weapons on the battlefield. The embassy rescue operation in Zindara resonated globally. Sloane Diplomat Kelly's name became a legend in diplomatic and military circles. As the details of the operation emerged, everyone was astonished at how Sloane had single-handedly defied an army. Following the incident, she was summoned to Washington. The U.S. president personally received her and declared her a national hero. The media dubbed her Hero of Zindara, the diplomat in the shadows, with headlines celebrating her courage. Sloane remained humble in the face of this sudden fame. To her, she had merely done her duty, what a soldier must always do. However, her extraordinary leadership, unyielding courage, and exceptional diplomatic acumen could not be overlooked. Her past Special Forces training and language skills were officially recognized and presented as a new model in military diplomatic relations. Her story began to be taught as a case study in military academies and diplomatic briefings. Sloane Kelly was no longer just a military attaché. The U.S. Department of State and the Pentagon offered her a new assignment. She would head the Global Crisis Diplomacy and Rescue Unit. This unit was established to ensure the security of U.S. embassies and personnel worldwide in similar crisis situations and to develop diplomatic solutions. Her mission was no longer just to save one embassy, but to ensure the safety of U.S. citizens around the globe. This was a whole new front for her. Sloane's story became a lesson whispered throughout the military and diplomatic communities. Those who had once given her the call sign Diplomat now understood that she was truly a ghost, a unique leader who combined diplomatic intelligence with military composure. Her story remained an epic of human perseverance in despair. unexpected leadership, and how intellect, even where weapons are silent, can defy an army. Her name reminded them that power is not always visible. Sometimes it lies hidden behind the most silent and diplomatic figures. Today, Sloane Diplomat Kelly continues her duty worldwide, serving as the last bastion for embassies and personnel amidst political crises and conflicts. Her story powerfully emphasizes that a national hero can rise not only from the battlefield, but also from the diplomatic tables. She is not just a soldier, she is a symbol of diplomacy, intertwined with courage, intelligence with strength, and hope, even in humanity's darkest moments. She is a living legacy, teaching future generations that true power lies not in appearance but in character and action.